One for measuring angles. One thing to note before we jump in your homework, you're going to get angles that are drawn in the book. I don't expect you to measure those out of the book, so your answers will be a little bit different. I say just draw an angle that looks close to the angle that you did and measure that angle. If you want to measure the one in the book, that's fine. I just think it's a little difficult to do on the iPad. So if you want to draw your own version, take a straight edge, draw straight lines, make an angle that looks close to the angle that you see, and then just measure it that way. That's totally fine with me. All right, first thing we need to discuss is an angle. Can anyone tell me what an angle is? Yeah.
It's the measurement of two lines that intersect, the greatness, like how wide or far apart they are.
Okay, yeah. They would say it's formed by two rays, but often two lines would be the case as well. But formed by two rays is what we will say for the sake of defining. With the same endpoint. So they need to share an endpoint, and that's what we call the vertex of our angle. So that endpoint is called our vertex. And then it will look something like this, and then we'll talk about some different parts this way as well. Let's say we have a point B here, God bless you, point A, point C, and there's a 1 right here. Okay, this is considered an angle. We have two rays. They meet at what point? Point A. Okay, so point A right now, this point here, that's called our vertex. We would say this is the interior of the angle. In other words, inside the angle. And then all of this space out here is called the exterior of the angle. In other words, we're outside of the angle with that. And there are several ways that you can name an angle, but you have to be a little bit careful with it. So we're going to talk about the ways you can name it and then when you have to be a little more careful. Any guesses as to how I might name this angle? We have 4 ways with this particular angle. Jayla. Okay, that's true. Yes. We'll get into that in a little bit. This is an acute angle. Do you know what acute is? Less than 90, less than a right angle. Okay, so that is true. I'm talking naming like using points and numbers. What name could I give this angle? Yeah, Daniel. Angle BAC. Okay, so one way you can name it is use 3 letters and make sure that the vertex is the middle letter. So BAC would be one name. What would another name be? Let's flip it around, right? Angle CAB. And notice I put the little angle out in front. That's how you say something is an angle. So make sure you have that little angle marker. Looks like a less than symbol, right? Make sure you put that there. And then there's 2 other names. Any guesses? Yeah. Just angle A. So you can name it by just its vertex, angle A. Any guesses what the last one is? Yeah. Can't do ABC because your middle letter has to be the vertex. Yeah, Daniel.
Angle 1.
Angle 1. Okay, if there's a number given there, you can use that number to name it. So those are the 4 names we could give this particular angle. Where you have to be careful is if I give you an angle like this. So this is technically our first example. Let's say I give you this setup. So there's a point J, K, L, M, and then a 1 and a 2 there. My question is, how many ways can you name angle 1? Okay, so if I want other names for angle 1, what could you call it? How could you name angle 1? JMK would be 1. So you could call it angle JMK. That's another way. Daniel.
Angle KMJ.
Angle KMJ. So notice M is our vertex, and M is always in the middle. Okay? Is there another way you can name that angle? Trick question. There's not another way you could name that angle. Before, in that last one, we said you could name it angle A, right? Why do you think you can't name this one angle M? Yeah, Matthew. Right, we don't know which one we're talking about, right? Angle M might be, might be this one, but it also might be the one next to it, or it might be the whole thing, okay? So if there's multiple angles coming off of one vertex, you have to use 3 letters, or you have to use a number, okay? So just be careful with that when you are naming angles. Any questions on how you name them? Okay, so if you're uncertain, the safest way to name an angle, use 3 letters, if you want to play it safe, okay? All right, classifying angles. So when I ask you to measure and classify, the classify part is what Jayla was talking about. There's a bunch of different types of angles. We're going to talk about those right now. So when we classify angles, there's actually 4 that we're going to talk about. And I'm going to see if you guys know the 4. So I'm going to draw you a picture and see if you can tell me the angle. Jayla already told us this one, so I'll give you this one. This one is called an acute angle. And we said acute means your angle measure is less than 90 degrees. It also means it's more than 0, because if it's 0, there's no angle there. So we're just going to write it like this. 0 is less than x, which is less than 90. So that angle measure is between 0 and 90. It does not include 0 and 90. Okay? So that's the first one. Can anyone tell me this one? That is a right angle, okay? What do we know about a right angle? How many degrees is it? It's 90. Okay, so a right angle will always be 90 degrees. How about this guy? Yasmin. This is obtuse. And what do you know about an obtuse angle? More than 90, less than 180. So this is going to be between 90 and 180 degrees. Okay. And then the last one looks like this. Anyone know what you call that one? It's probably the least common one that people know because we just don't use it a ton. A line. Who said it? Someone said it. Who's saying that? Oh, were you saying that? Oh, I was like, I don't see anyone's mouth moving. It's a straight angle. So this one is a straight angle. And a straight angle is a straight line, which always forms 180 degrees. Okay, so if it's a straight angle, it will always be 180. Questions on that? Okay, here's what I want you to do then. Chat with your neighbor, someone around you. Introduce yourself if you don't know them. But but find around this room one of every type of those angles. So an acute, and don't use those because that's just given to you. But somewhere around this room, with a desk, with any item in this room, can you find an acute, a right, an obtuse, and a straight? Okay, this part I'm not going to draw on the whiteboard or on the app, but I'm going to draw pictures up here, but I'm still recording my voice for anyone who feels like that's still helpful. So here, what we're going to do is work with the protractor and just figure out how to use it to measure. So if you want to draw some angles with me and measure them yourself just to try it out, you're welcome to. Yours are going to be different than mine, so don't think if you don't get the exact same measure that I do that you're doing it wrong necessarily, okay? And your protractor is going to look different than mine. So don't worry about that either. What you'll notice is most protractors have two sets of numbers. Do you see that? So if I start from this side, 0 to 180 goes counterclockwise. If I start over here, 0 to 180 goes clockwise. You may use either set of numbers. There's not a right and a wrong with that. It's just a matter of where you start. So different people start in different places. Let's say I do this angle. Okay, here's my vertex. Looking at a protractor, where would you guess the vertex needs to line up? There's that little mark right in the middle, or some of you maybe have a little dot on your protractor. For me, it's right here, okay? You want 0 to be a line. Now, some protractors have an extra little, like this one, right? If you have one like this, your line needs to line up here. This one doesn't have a line. It's the bottom edge of the protractor, so just pay attention to what yours looks like. If you're not sure, I will come around and help you in just a little bit, okay? But we're going to measure this one. So we're going to line it up so that our point is here. And now you just have to figure out, where does this line need to be? So you can do it like this. Okay, and if I go this way, see how it's lined up perfectly on my line to the right, and my point is in the middle. What would you say the measure of this angle is? Looking at my numbers here. 140. Why not 40? It's obtuse, right? So you have to start at 0. If I start here and work my way around, I don't want to start at 180 and count around to 40. I moved it. I want to start at 0 and work my way around to 140. Okay, so this would be a 140-degree angle, and we would call it obtuse. Okay. How about this one? This one is what kind of angle? Acute. Okay, so I know it's got to be a number less than 90. So when I line it up, I'm going to line this one up the other way. Here's my vertex. That's going to go at the point, and then my 0 on the line. Okay, so here's my line here. Drew the exact same setup. Notice it went from 0 to 40. So this is like 39.5 degrees. I usually give you a degree of grace in either direction. So if I got 40 degrees, I will take 39 and I will take 41 as correct answers, but still be as precise as you can, okay? So I would just say this is 40 degrees and it's acute. Any questions on how you use that? Okay. All right. So yesterday we talked about congruent segments. How did we mark segments congruent? With the little hash marks, right? Angles are very similar, but instead of hash marks, we can mark them congruent with little arcs instead. So if I were to give you this picture, oh, sorry, my bad. swap back. All right, so say we have this setup. And I want to show that these angles are congruent. I can mark them like this. So an arc on this angle and an arc on that angle means those two angles are congruent. They're the same measure, okay? I can also do it to mark another angle with two arcs, because this angle is obviously not the same as the first angle, but it is the same as the angle across the way from it. So single set of arcs would be one, double set of arcs would be a second congruent angle. Okay, so that's how we'll mark them congruent. Okay, so let's say if I told you this is 60 degrees, and this is A, B, C, and O. Can you tell me the measure of angle BOC? Right. So BOC, okay, goes from B to O to C. I'm talking about this angle. Okay, they're marked congruent. So if this one is 60 and I tell you they're congruent, then the measure of angle BOC is 60 degrees. Notice how it's written, okay? M is the measure, so how many degrees, and then the angle, and then the three letters, okay? The measure of angle BOC. Okay. Okay, so what we're gonna do with this today, we did segment addition postulate yesterday. Today we're gonna do angle addition postulate, so it looks very similar. Angle addition postulate. Okay, and this one says this. If I have this picture, and this is A, B, C, and O. What letter is my vertex right now? O, okay? The angle addition postulate says the measure of angle AOB plus the measure of angle BOC will equal the measure of angle what? The two parts equal the whole thing. What's the measure of the whole angle? What lettering? AOC. Okay, so AOB is this guy. BOC is this guy. So if I add those two together, I get the whole thing. Okay? So here's how it's going to look. I'm going to give you an example of what you'll do with that. Example 3, I kind of just lumped into some of my writing. So this is like example 4 in the book, but it's really the third one I'm marking in here. So this says if the measure of angle RQT is 155, what are the measure of angle RQS and the measure of angle TQS? And here's your picture. This is not necessarily drawn to scale, so use your imagination if our numbers look a little funny. All right, so it says that RQT, so the big angle, is 155. How can I set this up using angle addition postulate? Yeah, Jamie.
You can add RQS and SQT together. And
Right. Right, so don't forget they gave you valuable information, 155. We're going to take those two parts and add them together. So 4x minus 20 plus 3x plus 14 equals 155. And then algebra from there, right? So 4x plus 3x is 7x. Negative 20 plus 14 is minus 6 equals 155. Add that 6. So 7x equals 161. And then divide by 7. And x comes out to 23. Okay, now the question is, what are the measures of the angles? So if I want to find the measures of those angles, what I'm going to do is the measure of angle RQS is going to be 4 times 23 minus 20, right? So I'm just plugging x in here, and then I'm going to plug x in here also. So 4 times 23 minus 20 gets you 72 degrees. Okay. The measure of angle SQT is going to be 3 times 23 plus 14. So simplify that, and SQT comes out to 84 degrees. So that would be SQT. And that is the end of the lesson. Good timing. So quiz the next time I see you. Study. It is 83. My bad. Sorry, 83. I gave you the wrong